How's everyone this morning? We've got a really unique group. I can't wait to show this stuff to you guys. You guys are going to love this. I'm David Kobarowski, one of the co-chairs of the Public Affairs Forum. I'm very excited to have the robotics group with us this morning to show off their incredible inventions. I had first seen them at Maker Faire, which is an international show of inventions that they have here in Austin. And I was extremely impressed and just fascinated by the music that they create by these inventions. And they also were in the first night that the City of Austin has every year on New Year's, and then one of the big groups that were showcased there. And Wolf Dilworth is one of the individuals that I know pretty well, and he helped me to set this all up and get this going. And Vern Graner, another one of the big inventors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Vern Graner to start the presentation. So please welcome Vern Graner.
Am I lit up? Well, I normally start out with one of these to just kind of freshen up a little bit, but I figured while I was here I'd save everybody a lot of time because I've got this flashlight, and I know all of you are searching for enlightenment, so never mind. They tell me to start with a joke. Okay, yeah. Don't worry, I got a million of them, none of them are funny either. What we're here to talk about today is, first off, a little bit about the robot group itself. The robot group is, as he said, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, and our mission is kind of to get people excited about technology again, especially younger kids, and try and get them to lose the mindset of the disposable technology, the idea that if something doesn't work, you just simply throw it away and buy another one. We're wanting people to try and think about what's inside of it, how does technology work, and what we do to help inspire the kids is we try and create interesting things using technology so that way they'll be a little bit inspired and look and go, wow, how did you make that? What does it do? And how did you come up with it? And how can I make one? And you say, well, you got to learn about science, and you got to stay in school, you got to learn about mathematics. These are all the things that you have to do. And let's just go right into the Therepings now. The Thereping instruments, what do you see on the chairs here? It all began with a haunted house, strangely enough. I was doing a haunted house for my community where we were collecting food donations for the local food bank. And when I got done with that, I had just kind of been in and out with the robot group. And one of the members of the robot group volunteered a lot of the other members of the robot group to come help with the haunted house and set up and tear down. And when we got all done, Denise took me to the side and says, you know, we've helped you with that haunted house, and so we'd like to maybe help you out, have you help us out with an upcoming event. I said, okay, well, what's the upcoming event? She said, well, we've got First Night Austin. I'd never heard of such a thing. And so I said, well, what exactly are we going to do? Well, it turns out what she had done is she had pitched a proposal to the folks at First Night Austin for something called the Robot Theremin Marching Band. Robot Theremin Marching Band. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can handle that. Okay, what exactly does this do? And she goes, well, we thought about having a group of people with theremin instruments and have them play the theremin instruments as they marched down Congress Avenue in the Grand Procession. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with real theremin instruments, but a real theremin instrument is actually played without touching it. It was the first non-contact musical instrument. And it used magnetic fields to determine where your hands were in relation to the instrument. And as you move your hand closer, the pitch would rise. If you move your hand further away, the pitch would fall. And the other hand would allow you to adjust the volume of the instrument. And the real problem with the theremin instrument is that in order to play it properly, you have to have extraordinarily good body control, because something just as simple as taking a deep breath can change how much of your body is within the magnetic field of the antennas, and it can cause the instrument to go sharp or flat. Someone who actually can play a theremin and play it well has to have the kind of skill of an absolute virtuoso violin player. So knowing this about theremin instruments, and when Denise said we're going to have 15 of these instruments, or 6 or 12, or however how many they can build, and we're going to have everybody play them together as we go down the street. And I was thinking to myself, this is going to sound very similar to a bag full of cats being murdered with a mallet. I said, people are more likely to run screaming than to scream yay. The other thing I said, well, okay, well, maybe we've got some good players. I said, well, do we have theremin players? She goes, oh, we got plenty of people to do it. I said, well, yeah, people, but do you have people that are experienced playing? For example, if I just handed you a violin and said, here, play, what kind of sound would be created? Well, that's basically what she said. Well, we got a bunch of people that'll do it, but none of them are musicians. Okay, so it's getting to be a larger problem than I had originally thought. Now, being a technician and an engineer myself, pretty much that's my only tool And when your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Well, so with this, every problem looks like a technical problem. We have a technical problem. We have people who can't play music. So we have to break it down into its composite pieces. What exactly can go wrong when you're playing music? I know that's really huge, but let's break it down to really down to its bare nuts and bolts. The first thing that can go wrong is you could play the wrong note. The second thing that could go wrong is you'd play at the wrong time. Fundamentally, that's the only things you can do wrong when you're playing music. Either play the wrong note or playing at the wrong time or failing to play at the proper time. So I said, okay, well, if we break this down into those individual pieces and we find a way to deal with that, maybe we can do it with computers, of course. So we started out, I think Don Colbeth was the first one that started to play with this. I had received from a company called Parallax, which makes the basic stamp. You see they've got their stickers on here. They're nice enough to send us some parts and stuff when they saw what we were doing with them. They're like, hey, cool, send them some stuff. So I put their sticker up here. Anyhow, the idea is that they had this little thing called a ping sensor, this little guy here with the two little silver cans in front of it. And what this little thing does is it actually sends out a pulse of ultrasonic sound in a cone. When that sound strikes something and echoes back, it's received by the other piece, which is like a little microphone. And just like bats can use sonar for echolocation to figure out where objects are and the distance to them, this little sensor can figure out the distance that something is away from the sensor or closer to the sensor. So I thought, well, if I can use that to figure out where my hand is, well, I can use that as a way to try and play different notes of music. So we wrote some software, because this is a little tiny computer inside of here, and we wrote some software that would watch the sensor, and it would just play notes. Closer that you got, higher the notes got, lower that you got, farther away, the lower the notes got. And it actually worked. And we're like, well, that's cool. Well, now there's a problem. Okay, I can play notes, but again, we're not musicians, so what do? Blues to the rescue. Blues scales. Those of you that may have a little bit of musical background know that a blues scale consists of notes where every note in the blues scale works with every other note in the blues scale, meaning you can't play a wrong note. So, there we go. We've got to play some blues. Okay, so I thought, all right, let's do this. We'll take the airspace above the sensor. We'll divide that into 12 discrete zones. If your hand is anywhere within, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, what it'll do is it'll pick a note out of the blues scale. It'll play that note. So we rewrote some code and tried that. Seemed to work. Okay, that's good. Well, now we have the notes figured out. Well, what about timing? Because we have a whole bunch of people together that couldn't carry a rhythm, in a bucket or whatever. So, all right, how do we fix that? Again, computer. So we put cables on all the instruments, ran them back to something called the Thereclock. And the idea behind this is that the central clock sends a pulse to each of the instruments that's connected to it, so that each of the instruments knows when it should play a note. The player who's playing doesn't have to know when to play a note. All the player has to do is just kind of wave their hand around in front of the instrument. Perfect. So I wrote some software to go in the clock, and I thought we need something else. Just beepity boopity bip. It's kind of boring. It sounds like old 1980s cell phone ringing or something. So that we've got to have something to go with it. Give me a beat. Got to have something to go with it. So using the MIDI output line from here, I actually send MIDI to a general MIDI device where I have bass and drums that I can use to back me up and actually play music behind me. The instruments were designed to be carried more or less like a guitar. And we had one of our members created all these very cool, science fiction, like this little robot guy, and we got a rocket ship, we got a little alien over here. So we got all these little kind of cool shapes, and these are really popular with kids. Kids just love to be able to, oh, I want to play the robot, I want the rocket, Because the neat thing about it is because you don't have to know anything about music, you can hand this to a 5-year-old, and they can play music, which is a lot of fun. Also, I wanted to also explain, the other thing we noticed was it got kind of boring to just be playing quarter notes or half notes, just continuously blah, blah, blah. So one thing to add a little bit more variety, we put some buttons up here on the button bars that allows me to change if I'm playing quarter note, half note, 16th note. I can change by pressing the buttons. And again, doesn't matter, randomly press some buttons, wave your hand around, you get music. So let me go ahead and show you, first off, you guys can keep clear of your sensors so that we can just have a single unit play. And I'll give you an idea of what it sounds like. Oh, and by the way, the whole point of doing this was so that we could be in a parade. So we could go down Congress Avenue and play music, everybody clap, yay, we're all done, right? Well, because it's a computer and because we had a limited amount of time, it plays one song. That's it. But it worked really well for a parade, because in a parade, we were on the float. We were exposed for 25 or 30 minutes, and we were going, in our sleep. But people in the side of the parade, they only got to see us for 2 or 3 minutes. They're like, hey, that's a great song. So by the time we were done, we were pretty done with the song. But I've heard this 10, 15 billion times. So, the other thing I did is I added a little bit of bling to it, I guess, by putting the rope light in so you can see the tempo as it goes. So this is how it sounds when it's playing the background to go along with the instrument. Ready? All right, now I'm going to take the instrument. I'm going to put my hand within range of the sensor. Now if I move my hand down, okay? So now, is that too loud? I'm seeing people cover their ears. It's too loud, it's too loud. Is that a little better? Don't blow it right out of the room. All right. Now these allow me to change how fast it's playing. The other thing I did was I added an octave button, which allows me to move the octave up and down. So that way it gives me a little more room to play. All right, guys, let's have you guys join in and start playing as well. Big finish. So that's what it works like. Now, one of the fun things about this is that we can actually get anybody to play it. And so one of the things we were kind of hoping to do, and I think we'll hold that for the Q&A section, is we're going to try and drag a couple people up here and have you guys play one of these as well, because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot like karaoke, except you don't torture your friends with your lack of singing abilities. So it's much better. Now, something that happened a little bit later on, a lot of the members of the group began to notice that they sound pretty much the same. In fact, I think the quote was cheesy, beepy, middies, 80 music crap. So we thought, all right, what are we going to do to try and upgrade the sound? And so I turned to a good friend of mine, Mack, who is a programmer. And I'm woefully limited in my programming skills. I was able to do this with the basic stamp. But then there came a new chip called the propeller chip. And the propeller had the ability to actually control not only the lighting and the sounds and read the buttons, but it could also send out MIDI note information. So this is the first incarnation that you just heard. We're going to switch over now to the new version of the Thereping instruments, which are the ones over here on my left. We can also, I guess it doesn't really matter. I could pull that screen down a little bit. Oh gosh, we have these set up for kids. Can you tell? I'm used to playing guitar, but it's a little tall for me. See, what I'm going to do is I'll bring this down a little ways so you can kind of see what's going on, because it's neat in that the propeller chip has the ability to display video output as well. So while this thing is actually playing, we can actually see the notes generated as it's reading the notes. So I'm going to start it running, I hope, right here. Bassline sound a little familiar? All right, so as you can see, when I press the buttons, it'll actually show the buttons being pressed. I'm unit number 3 here. So as I press the buttons down, they change. Same thing with grays. Now this instrument's actually going to just send MIDI information to it, and it'll have an actual musical instrument sound instead of the beepy sound. Ready to jam? Go. There we go. So, new and improved. So that pretty much, and that's kind of the reason I ran the video at the beginning. So there's just really not a whole lot to these, except that they're a lot of fun to play, and they're a lot of fun to have kids come out and play, and they get a chance to, you know, be a rock star, and it actually has decent enough sound to it. So we can actually move it over to Q&A if you'd like, or we can move over to maybe trying to drag some volunteers up onto the stage and see if they'd like to play a Thereping.
Why don't we, let's take some questions. If you
Q&A.
can turn all the lights on. And then we'll take some questions. Then we'll also offer to you all to come up and actually try out these instruments. So what we do at this stage of the game is if you have a question, please raise your hand, and I'll come around. And if you can stand up when you have your question so we can make sure everyone sees you. And Larry is going to help me as well. Larry Kortz is off on the right side. So anybody have a first question, or want me to start it off? Tell us again, so the group was started in 1980, was 89? Or roughly?
Yeah, that's about right. The group has been around almost 20 years now, or maybe a little over 20 years. I'm not really sure. I'm not good with dates. But yeah, it's been around for a long time.
And
any others? Right here. We got Q&A up here in the front.
Yeah, we got a question up there. I'm
going to
walk around and get over there in a second. Okay, Cecil has a question. If you can stand up, please, Cecil.
Have you tried other pentatonic scales in addition to the blues scale, where all the intervals are consonant?
We actually have looked at doing that, and what the question is have we tried some other scales? And that's a very good question. We've investigated doing some additional backing songs as well, and using like swing blues as well. There's a lot of different scales in the musical environment that you can use where all the notes play well together, as it were, besides just regular blues scales. But as you saw maybe at the beginning of the video, you know, it's like I have a full-time job. I'm married with 2 kids. In fact, yesterday was my 22nd anniversary, so getting up this morning was a little tough. But you know, we all have jobs. We all have got lives to try and lead, and so in a lot of cases, it's catch as catch can. We've also discovered that in many cases, a lot of folks are very interested in something new. It's like, oh, well, we've seen that. What do you have that's new? So the older instruments rarely get advanced or played with, or, you know, heck, even unboxed, unless we have a gig or a show that's particularly interested in them. But we also are interested in expanding the use of the instruments. And so one of the things that I'm wearing this for a reason up here, not only just to keep the shiny from blinding you. But the idea is I write a column for Nuts and Bolts magazine, and in one of those columns I wrote a column about the Thereping instruments. And if you go to Thereping, Thereping, and it's not Thera with an A, because we noticed that when you look at that it looks like the raping. We thought that's not such a good idea for, you know, for an instrument name for kids, not so good. So we went to Thereping, so Thereping.com. Not only can you read the article about how the instruments were created, but all of the source code for you to make your own, and all the parts list, everything that's necessary to build one of these instruments is listed up there. And one of these instruments is basically a chunk of shelf wood and a $30 board and a $20 sensor. So the board itself, each instrument can be made for under $100 easily. But yeah, if you'd, I invite you to come out and visit our robot group meeting, and if you'd like to investigate additional scales, these things sit around and gather dust most of the time. So yeah, we'd love to have people help us with that.
So we've got a question back there. I'll get to you in 1 second. You've been traveling a little bit too, I noticed, not just in Austin, other areas. Tell us about some of your most exciting trips you've made. I mean, you have to take all these with you. Do you drive out to the actual events, or do you fly? And what do folks say when they see these things as you're making your trek across to different areas of the country or the state to show these off?
Well, you know, you must have no life is one of the things they say. No, in all seriousness, probably one of the most fun things that we did was we took these out, and by we I mean me. I managed to stick them into, I don't know if you saw the suitcase or not, but we have this big tourister suitcase. We managed to stuff all these things between bubble wrap and get it in a suitcase. And we flew them all the way out to San Mateo, California for the Maker Faire presentation. And that's where we actually had them set up, and we allowed people to come up. And probably one of the most exciting things was we actually had the Associated Press come up and ask us and interview us and talk about the instruments. And I got to tell a little bit about the story behind them, how they were created and why, and how they work, and then publicize the fact that they were available for free. And that actually built some people coming to our website and downloading and building their own, and actually sending pictures going, hey, look, here's my Thereping. and they're using them in stage performance and things like that. So that's kind of fun for me, is to know that, you know, it's not just something in my garage, it's an idea that was picked up by other people and then moved to other places. Say probably one of the other really exciting things to do is to take it to schools. To take it to schools or any place where there's kids. Kids just go nuts for them. They have so much fun because they can you know, party like a rock star with this thing, and it just, you know, jams and the music boom 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 boom, and they're just playing away, and they can't screw up. There's really no way you can play anything wrong. You can't do anything wrong with the Thereping itself. Any of the input that you give it is acceptable because it's all filtered by the computer. But you can see it's a little monotonous.
That's great. There's a question back here. You still have a question? You stand up.
All right, I'm scared of the basic stamp because I can see it's a big hole that'll suck up time. But yeah, I mean, you've said it yourself.
Shall I
got
refute
a life
that?
that's full. But my question is, what's the what kind of support software do you need to program a basic stamp, and basically, how long did it take you to build your first Thereping?
The first Therepings, I would say, probably took me between 2 and 3 days. Now, I'm not a commercial programmer. I don't have you know, a degree in computer science or anything close to that. As far as what you need in order to make it go, you need to have a Windows computer with like Windows 2000 or Windows XP on it. There's also Macintosh versions and Linux versions of the software. It's a little more complex to get set up in those environments, but the original environment is based for Windows. And the software itself, you download for free from their website. This little board and a sensor, you can get the whole kit from them for, I think it's somewhere around $80. And the software you wouldn't have to write. You can just go to our website and pull it down. And it's the one thing I am good at is I am good at something that a lot of programs aren't good at, which is commenting my code. If you actually look at the source code that comes with this, every single section of the code is documented, and there's also flowcharts that say, you know, what's the program logic and how does it progress? Because I wanted it to be an open enough project that it wasn't going to be, oh, well, unless you happen to have been there, unless you know what it is, you're not going to be able to build it. You should be able to read the documentation and then actually build one yourself. But as far as getting started is concerned, how much time was concerned, like I said, between 2 and 3 days to actually have it fleshed out and working. And then it's undergone small modifications, usually in the panicky 2 or 3 hours before we're supposed to do an event. We're like, oh, let's change that. And so, yeah, in fact, I actually have got, my laptop's got the code on it right now. I could actually rev it if I needed to do so. But they've been extraordinarily robust and very reliable in regards to, unlike, you know, because Windows is actually only used to put the code in there, and so we're not having to worry about blue screens of death or other weird viruses or things, because the code is actually contained in the chip itself. In fact, the difference between this incarnation and this incarnation is these actually make the sound. There's actually, that chip that's there is actually producing the sound. You could actually put a jack here and plug it into a guitar amp, and this would make sound out through an amp. Whereas in these, what we're doing is we're recording the distance and then putting it together as a package, sending it back to the clock. The clock then figures out what note it should be playing and sends that out to the MIDI box, which is then playing the sounds, which is why that one sounded so much cooler with chimes and bells and whistles and flutes and stuff. It's because it was different.
Yep.
One more?
Question. Who's got a question back there? Okay. If you can stand up, please.
You were talking about the various places you've gone. I work with special needs population, and because they have no coordination or limited coordination of their movements and whatnot, and you said it doesn't matter, Have you thought or have you worked with that population for them to experience? Because it would be a win-win situation for them.
We've actually, in a couple of circumstances, when we were in San Marcos, you saw that Eureka event in San Marcos, we did have some special needs kids there that had some coordination issues and such. We actually, it was really kind of cool. There was one fellow that was in a wheelchair, and we actually took it. He had limited control. I think it was multiple sclerosis or something, and he sat in the wheelchair, and what we did is we laid it across the tray, and he was able to just do like this. And actually, just by leaning forward, he could get that sensor to pick up where his chest was, so he could play higher notes and lower notes, and he would just press the buttons with his fingers, and he was jamming with a whole group of kids. And I was really mad because I was up there playing. I forgot pictures. Anyhow, so, but yeah, I mean, it's very possible to do. This could be adapted. It doesn't have to be on a chunk of wood. It could be on anything that you decide to do, and anything that gets closer or further away will vary the sound, and anything at all that you can use to press buttons on this end would be enough to change the tempo that it's playing. So it could be done, absolutely. But like I said, we meet every Thursday night One of the things that we're doing, which I think is kind of neat, is that our meeting place is actually in South Austin, and we're at the Heritage, which is an assisted living and retirement home. And many times when we have our events, we'll have some of the residents come in, because I know this is a shock, but being old doesn't mean you're stupid, okay? So a lot of these folks, were engineers, they were rocket scientists, they did some amazing stuff, and so they come walking in and it's like they're looking at what we're doing, they're looking at stuff, and I've had some really insightful questions coming from these folks. So it's really been helpful to have it in that area, because not only does it give us a place to meet, but it gives us kind of a population to interact with, depending upon what their skill level is and what they're able to do at the age point that they are.
Vern, I had a question. What about,
Yes.
what do musicians say about this? Have you had any chance to actually play with any bands out there that are any popular bands, or have any bands or musicians mentioned that maybe you can play with them along with some of them? I mean, it's just fascinating music to listen to and so unique. Have you had any kind of feedback like that?
There's been like only a couple of instances where we've taken the instruments out and played on a stage like I'm doing right now. This is fairly unusual for us. Normally we go, and this is an also-ran. We have this set up on a table and some kids will play with that or whatever, and then there's all kinds of other eye candy. We have the Robo Spin Art machine, we have the babbling head, we have the ping pong printer, we have the Ponginator, which is our little 30-foot tall quad cannon pneumatic ping pong ball firing robot. So those kind of gather a lot of the attention. These guys they had their peak and they're kind of waned a little bit. So no, we actually haven't had an opportunity to have a real band, like with drums and bass and other things going. And I think it would actually be kind of cool, because you can just play along with it, because especially it's easy to find the tempo for it, because there's your tempo right there. Okay, if you want to know the beat, that's it. Just watch it right there and you can play right along. In fact, we could even kill the sound from it, and you could just keep up with it that way and watch the beat and then have... So we could actually have a live bass and drum play along with it. So it's possible to do. Someone who wants to, more game.
I got to see the Ponginator at Maker Faire. I was wondering, this is a 30-foot high, 3-story high,
That's right.
huge mechanical device that shoots these ping pong balls hundreds of feet out there, and it was one of the biggest attractions they had at Maker Faire. Where do you store this huge? I mean, so a lot of this, I assume, is in your garage, and your wife must be either very forgiving or must love you a lot.
Storage, 22 years. That's 22 years. She's put up with me that long. No, she's a maker herself. Background is technology as well, so she's very understanding and actually participates in some regard by building some of the things that we do and some of our things that we've done at Maker Faire. But as far as storage is concerned,
right.
Everybody's garage. I mean, it's in Wolf's, it's in Gray's, it's at Jim's. It doesn't matter. Anybody who's got a garage has got spare feet. You can hang it from the ceiling. You can put it in that's where the stuff resides. In fact, when we were driving over here, I was calling Gray going, do you have the Therepings? Are you going to be there? Because I had the PA system and he had the instruments. So storage is kind of fun. It's something that's kind of sad. We actually did used to have our own warehouse, which we referred to lovingly as the Robo Hut. And it was over on Ben White Boulevard. It was a big warehouse, and we had all of our equipment stored in there. But dot bomb crash, people losing their jobs, and all of a sudden there wasn't rent money to go around, and people had to take care of their families. So we let the place go, and since then we've just been meeting at the Heritage, and everybody goes home after the event with pieces as much as they can store. So that also kind of limits our creativity, because we don't have a place to actually build the things, nor do we have a place to store them once they're built. As far as the Ponginator is concerned, the specific unit itself is made mostly from a hydraulic lift. It just so happens my brother is in a construction company actually that he runs, and so he had the lift, and so we just kind of dragged it away while he was looking. We told him afterwards, but we took the lift and we then mounted the whole head and the guns and all the stuff on it. So it was all pretty much just a scissor lift environment that would just raise itself up and fire guns and stuff. And when we're done, we took the guns off, we took the speakers out, took the compressors off, pulled all the lights off of the thing, stored all of those, and put it back into the garage. So it's back with him now.
We got a question right here in the middle.
Question right here.
Has anybody experimented with graphics output from the Thereping? I mean, if the clock can find a specific note, then it should be able to find a graphics element or a color too, right?
The closest that we have in that's a good question. The closest we have is, if you notice when I'm playing, the lights that are on here will change, because we wanted to have some kind of visual indication that it actually was working, because a lot of times when you have multiples playing together, you're like, is that me playing or is that him? I can't tell because they sound the same. In fact, that's one of the reasons we went to this design, because like, all right, this one's going to sound like a pan flute, that's going to sound like a sitar. And that way you can tell what the difference is. These all sound the same. So we put the lights on them so we could see what the difference was. Now, you notice with these, we actually had video output up here that was showing what buttons were being pressed and what notes were being there. So as a logical extension of that, absolutely. We could add in something that would show, yeah, it would change. Every time you hit a note, you know, like every time a chime would sound, you could have a chime show up, or every time that you had a cymbal crash, you could show a starburst or something. It would absolutely be something we could do in our copious free time. You're more than welcome to join us. Come on down to the Heritage. Any Thursday, we meet from 7:30 to 10. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of people, a lot of creative people, and you don't have to be just pitch for the robot group a little bit. You don't have to be a 4-star engineer to be in the robot group. We have a lot of folks that are just artists, just regular folks, just somebody who has an interest. Somebody's willing to kind of grab a handle and help load things, or says, well, like you were saying, well, what about doing graphics? Like, graphics, that's a cool idea. What do you think? We can do graphics, so. It's like sometimes inspiration just comes from the whole. You have a bunch of people together, and that synergy is what creates a lot of this crazy stuff. You have a lot of people that you can then draw on. What I refer to as my palette of talent. I have machinists. I have electrical engineers. I've got people that are really, really hot in the software angle of things. I got people that are good carpenters. They're all members of the group. And they come and go, and some people come to some meetings, some to others. And then when we have an event, we got, what, 1, 2, 3, and kind of 4. Heather, you kind of, right? Sort of. She's hiding. Anyhow, so we got a number of different people that are parts of the group. It just depends on the day and what show we're doing.
We have a question here in the middle.
I didn't quite follow what you said about, you said the two things about some people can't play the notes, some people can't hit the note at the wrong time.
Right.
Now, how does the machine control the fact that some people hit the note at the wrong time? I didn't quite follow that.
Well, actually what happens, in fact, I'll start it running here so you can see it going. It's actually playing right now, and so it knows the tempo. So it's sending the notes, and the bass and drums are being sent to the instrument. So you see that this blinks. I don't know if you can actually see that or not, but that blinks on every beat. So it's sampling. I don't know, can you see that? Yeah. It's blink. Every time that blinks, it's actually sending a sonar pulse out into the room. And there's nothing out in front of it, so it doesn't play any notes. If I put my hand in front of it, the moment my hand gets in front of it, when you see that light blink, it'll actually play a note. Okay, and if I hit the buttons up here, it'll play them faster. So it's choosing when to play the notes. So it doesn't require you to actually play a note. You just wave your hand around, and it picks when to play the note. Does that kind of make it a little clearer?
I can see some similarities with the trombone. I don't play the trombone, but the whole business about you stretch it out to get this note
Lower.
and that, yeah.
And then higher.
So
as we
there's some
move
real
forward.
similarities to the
Yeah,
trombone.
except this one doesn't require talent like a trombone does.
Is everything patented, I'm assuming? Is that right?
It's not. None of this stuff is patented. The software itself, I think, has got, like Gray's, I think maybe got a personal copyright on that, and I've got a copyright on the software itself. So with the hopes being that people are not going to strip my name off of it and then just sell it in somewhere. I'd like to be involved at some point if they actually were going to turn it into a commercial product. But no, at this point, if somebody wants to make one and play it, they don't have to get my permission. They can just go out to the website, download the code, and make them their own thing.
Well, we've got about 6 or 7 minutes left for a few more questions, and we've got a lot of kids here too that want to check it out. So you have a did you still have a question? You pass.
So do we have any volunteers to come up and
Looks
play?
like we've got a few. It's just
Got some volunteers? Anybody? Anybody at all? Is there anybody interested? Anybody interested at all in something in my eyes? All right. This gentleman here, this young lady, and this gentleman here, and just 1 second. We only got 3. We're going to let you get a couple of rounds of them. So this is how it works. Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Do some
Yes.
demos? All righty. So we're going to start out. You're going to get the amazing rocket ship there. Now you put it on like a guitar. Your hands go through there. Right? See, look, that's right height for her. See, it's like, okay, and then what you got to do is get your rock and roll attitude out. You know, I'm ready to play? Okay, good. See, now you've had extensive musical lessons, right?
Not really.
No? Okay, perfect. Oh, wait, you play piano? Yeah. Well, that's not going to help you at all. No, sorry. Okay. Tuba, right on. Okay. Same thing. Arm goes through there for rock and roll. That's a little low. Let me see. Is that too low? I think, you know what, you can't really reach that very well. Now, this is patent pending. Nobody steal my idea, but I have a special strap adjustment tool here that we use to make sure it's the right height there. How about that? Perfect. Okay, so the last and least and least and last. Okay. All right, is that about right? Too low? Okay, this is the sensor. You see the two little silver cans? Two little silver cans, those are like the eyes. It's going to watch for your hand. You're going to take your hand, you want to put it flat like a pancake. Don't keep your fingers apart because then the sound waves go through and they don't find you. Keep your hands flat like a pancake. Parallel. Do you guys know the word parallel? Good. Parallel to the surface. You don't want to wave your arm up this way. You want to come straight out and straight back toward the sensor. You find 3 little buttons on the button bar. Those let you play faster and slower. I'm going to start out by having all you guys move your hand away from the sensor so that we can actually make sure that all the instruments are working, okay? The other thing is don't face each other. By the way, first rule, rock and roll, face the crowd, man. Rock on. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have you put your hand over the sensor one at a time to make sure that all the instruments work, okay? We got the band back together. Let's give them a hand. All right. Woo! Okay, here we go. Somebody's got their hand in front of it. All right. Put your hand here. Now hold the button down. Hold the black one down. This goes up and down in octaves, so you can kind of just bounce up and down the octaves. Uh-oh, what happened? We stopped. Yeah, see, they get beat up a little bit. They kind of come and go. All right, hold on just a second, huh? Your turn. Put your hand in front of the sensor. And then push some buttons down. All right, his is working. Just a second. Make sure yours is working. Put your hand in front of it. All right, everybody together. Let's jam. Oh, what happened to our PA? It reset. Right on. Good. We lost something there in the middle of things. All right, we have 3 more volunteers. We got 3 more. All right, we're going to do 3 more. You can kind of see it is the same song over and over. You go to sleep at night. Dun 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 dun. Absolutely, man. That's a rock and roll lifestyle. I'm digging it. Who else? Where we got the other ones? Sit one down. Thank you, guys. Hand for our first crew. All right. All right, let's take this. I think this one will be fun. You're plenty there. Jeez. Let's see. So we got one more on the end here. This one right here. Put it on like a guitar. Whoa, right on. Slung down low, looking rocking. All right, first rule of rock and roll is what? Face crowd. Right on. Okay, you guys ready to go? Junk on my stage. All right, we're going to start it up. 2, 3, rock! Why I'm getting piano. It's piano for some reason. You ready for a big finish? There you go. All righty, now we've done the kids. We've got to have at least one set of grown-ups. Can we do one set of grown-ups? Come on. How about the people that ask the questions? The people that ask the question interested in the device. You want to just come out and give it a try? Please, please. Make me get on my knees. Please. This gentleman, there we go. Come on up. There we go. Let's get the band back together, guys. This one's a little short. I'll take this one. We'll give you the guitar. I want to play along with him here. There you go. There's one more. Oh, one more on the end here? There we go. Good, I don't have to play. Yay. All right, now this one's going to be a little tight on you. That's one of the kids' favorites right there, is the right mighty rocket. Put your arm through there like a guitar. There you are. Okay. I've also noticed that the grown-ups follow the directions pretty well and they face the crowd. See, they listen. Man. It's listening. All right, so I'm going to start it running, and we're going to see what we got. You guys remember what the instructions are? Those are the little silver guys. Keep your hand flat like a pancake, perpendicular to the surface. I can use big words, perpendicular. Parallel. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, play! Try like hold all the buttons down, then move. Yours is coming out the left. Those buttons, hold them down. Just hold them down and then just move your hand. That's you. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Big finish! Big hand for our musical volunteers. Thank you very much, sir. You guys are rocking out.
All right, well, we're about out of time, Vern. We wanted to thank you and thank Wolf and thank the whole team for coming out and sharing all these wonderful gems with us. It's been a phenomenal demonstration of invention and discovery and, as you say, eye candy and ear candy too. So,
well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anything else you want to add as we wrap up?
No, I'm serious though. If you guys want to come and make some cool stuff, the robot group meets every Thursday night. Every Thursday night. Wolf is our president. More than welcome to speak with him and talk about coming on out.
This is Wolf right here, guys. In the front row.
We get some cool T-shirts. We have cool T-shirts at the Heritage. Right near Gaines Ranch. It's Mopac and Southwest Parkway. You know where the La Quinta is? Right there at Mopac and Southwest Parkway. There's a Best Buy on the other side. Next door to the La Quinta, which doesn't mean Denny's, by the way. But next door to there's what looks like a big apartment building. And it's an assisted living center called the Heritage, and we meet there. You just walk in the door and go, where are those crazy robot guys? Like, they're down there. So it's easy to find us. I'm sorry? 7:30 to 10:30 every Thursday.
And guys, if you've enjoyed this event, we do this just about every Sunday here, 11:30 a.m. It's broadcast on television tonight. You should be able to see one of our past shows at 6 p.m. on Channel 10 on Public Access TV, also known as Channel Austin. This is an all-volunteer event. It's the longest-running public affairs forum in Texas. So we're very proud of it. If you enjoy this and you want us to keep doing this, please leave us $1 or $2 as you're walking out so we can keep doing this. Again, next week is Easter. The week after that, April 19th, we'll have Kinky Friedman. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy your week. We'll see you back in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.